I am much greater than this. And above all else, I trust. I trust that I can reunite with my God source. I trust that I can become the I am. And I know that I am the living embodiment. I have everything here now. There is nothing that I require. All the energies are here, the teachers are here. All aspects of self are here. We have the ability to spiritualize matter. It's simply the will of the individual. And he's much greater than he's yet known. I accept that as my reality. Continue to clear for the earth, please. See it go through your body, through the collective gestalt, up, and burn away the massive confusion that you have around New York and Washington, D.C., please. Send it up this marvelous chimney that we have in front of us. And the grays and the black, allow them to burn in transformational fire as you're supposed to. Concentrate on that, please. Visualize it up there. And see it go into white liquid luminosity. The fire is so transformational that you see. Open the crown now and allow the absolute white of source to pour in. Liquid is always liquid into your physical body and through this gestalt, this truth. Bathe in it, gentle ones, please. Bathe the area that we're healing. Bathe the area that we are preparing to group this powerful. Every area around here we see in this liquid white. Bathe this part of your world into this. Feel it secure, know that these random factors in your earth here are secured now. See them as red. See them as red now, gentle ones, please feel these. Feel the flashes on this vase. Take it over to Mississippi now, please, because there's some confusion there. St. Louis. These fault lines can be healed. There's nothing more powerful than thought, and collective thought is magnificent now. Number 6, we heal ourselves, we heal the earth, we become. Let all residue release now. Breathe it out, everyone, please. Now for the whole earth, see her radiant. See her absolutely radiant. If you have a favorite crystal, with efforts like this you see, particularly with the feminine principle anchoring on earth, that the crystal kingdom is at least doubled in the last 6 weeks. So the vibration of this little planet will become more and more and more profound. And know this. Simply know it within your heart. Your heart is the cosmic heart. Recognize this as truth. That there is no separation between you and your God self. There never was. It's been a very dark dream that others have played on humankind. And for the goodly company that you are, it's time to heal and release this part with this very powerful group. You may wish to form groups. This has to be ongoing. You can secure it. You will secure it. This is just not to be, as many of you know. Symbolically now, take a hammer, nails, you might as well use gold, and secure this whole area, visualize it now. The faults are healed. The red fevers are not existent anymore. We heal. Stabilize the earth. We normally look to the whole globe, but this is such a desperate area that for the purpose of this powerful transmission will isolate our time and address this area, which is many times worse off than any of you would believe. To be dysfunctional is not our choice as light beings. It's the choice of darkness, and to keep this country, to keep this world as being dysfunctional to these agencies that manipulate and control you. And they're much, much more insidious than you could ever believe. Introducing you to paranoia. Your paranoia has been advanced without this. While we have the chance, breathe through this gentle planet and see it only as light. And know that we are global. We are not isolated to 4% and calling it the world. But we cannot heal our brother's problems or help at least, or to generate the love and the light that's required. There would be no United States. Nothing is in isolation. Nothing. Nothing in all of creation is in isolation. So any sense of braggadocio about it being American is a false belief. to be universal is a much greater belief. To be I am is profound. When you begin to see the illusion of your outer world, it will shock not you because you've seen it before, so you are the goodly company, and you know the planet of souls very well. And more this will surface within your consciousness, and you will begin to realize it's amazing how it happens. You require a 12-strand DNA. Now, when your scientists tell you it's junk, anything but two, and they get huge grants to prove that this is junk DNA, that it's a mutation that's not required, it might be a disease, is a false belief. It's absolutely essential for light to function with 12 helices, to function with a full deck. And they're all related to Socrates' gift. Helices, if you can visualize it, there's a snail, the snail's cover. Helices, like in a Dempsey spacecraft. Helices, both in you're working, some of you are developing, all of you will develop the 12-strand DNA. And the universal consciousness is yours. You will not have to sit in front of me. Let's begin. Last night we were told there was 1,728 of you, but less than 1% of you are awake. And that is where electromagnetics truly come into bearing, because the few radiate, you don't have to be conscious of this ignition. It is very profound, the ignition of light. You only some creature handing at you. Is that much lighter? And you have become one. And in that oneness there is immense power. Power beyond your ability to yet see. And never believe that you are anything less than a divine vehicle. Thoughts are things, little ones, more so now in the fourth dimension, going to the fifth and sixth than they ever were on this planet. See the crystals in the earth now developing, and I know it since the permanent principles of balancing of polarities on this planet. If you look to the planets around you, they're not balanced either, are they? This is the planet that needs to do this, for she's so powerful. It is so powerful. There's so much attention given to this area, more so than any other planet in this or any other universe. The greatest concentration ever because you cannot lose this planet, for it affects all of creation. This universe cannot graduate properly if it has a cancer. And the cancer reverse. We're a very, very loving group. I just ask that when you look to China, please, there's some problems we visualize there on that. The fault that goes through Alaska, the top plate through China, please feel it. It's very red and angry, please. Lift it into your heart, into love, and to feel it, gentle ones. Feel it, feel it, feel it. The consciousness on this place, the billion one or two, are not able to feel, but they're not conscious enough. At least not yet. To heal it for them. The violet flame is very effective through this whole area. Very good. Their country is very receptive to help. You see masses being raised. They know not what to do. They know what needs to be done at some level themselves. But among the beings in this miserable land, peace and joy, please. For ultimately we all are of the same seed, and it's so difficult for human to understand. Through your body, through the earth, allow it to become one. The body of bodies, all of creation. Whose sound is B flat? It's the God's sound. So to all raise the vibration of all the creation to this pure God. To yourselves. all of creation expands with you. Resonated through not only the community, through the group, but throughout all of your heart's in the right place. The group is aligned as one gentle one. The alignment with yours has been made, the alignment with all aspects of self, plus the Creator. Who is you? You just got to figure that out. And align and become it. How did you? That quickly you can become a master of energy, compelling, and affect all of creation, which is beyond your capability in this finite discipline, in this human body to truly realize. Only the power of the personality now on earth. But with all the energy coming in now, it's quite magnificent to see how expressive this group is, and the power, the light, and in time joy. Breathe out, please, and if there's any residue that you've collected, please breathe out. Very good. Good. I believe there's That's very, very good. And we do thank you all. The group came together very, very quickly. And it's absolutely essential for this part of the world to have this happen. Absolutely essential. But there's much more to it than that to talk about. I believe it's refreshment, and you're deserving. Apparently it's in the ante-room, the outer room. Thank you. Well, that was very good. You came together as a group about as fast as I have seen, certainly in North America. That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Because you expressed the fifth chakra, the throat. You will see the fourth and fifth. There's so many shifts in consciousness that we can barely stay with them. Your fourth and fifth, the heart, throat are becoming one. And then they shift again over the next, if you read the multidimensional matrix, you'll notice that you'll get an opportunity to tell you what you're going to be doing for approximately the next 35 years. And that is anchor into the physical body all what has been referred to in the recent times, or what Mahatma teaches is the 12 chakras, 12 rays. Right? And for points of reference, I do not teach any longer, because it's too confusing, to identify with levels of consciousness or points of light that are being integrated, called initiation. So don't ask me about initiations. You will know when you've gone beyond them. It's a very natural flow. It's not something that needs to be impeded with where am I in the scale of things. I've noticed with a few of you, we need to talk about the thymus a little bit, and we will. This is a grand group, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. You have no idea how long it's taken. I perceive that most of you don't know how long it's taken to be able to gather in a way that we can now discuss with great power, with great energy, the changes that are not conscious within you. I'm able to see them. I, always the greater I. For the little I is very little of it left. You'll find as you make your shift in consciousness that the free will that prevails in this part of this universe, and particularly in this particular area, there's no greater free will allowed than on this little planet. And this has been very confusing for many who helped create this situation, because more fell away than went into light, infinitely more. So they were given free will, and particularly in Atlantean times, the seeding nations, the seeding civilizations, those that created or came in spaceships or other vehicles, we seeded, let's just say, a few hybrids, but 24 specific civilizations on Earth. The most popular, or the best known, are those of Hulva, or the Jewish, which is very ancient energy on Earth. It was maligned badly during the Atlantean time, so that race were not incarnating at that time. You have probably the most popular race for expression on this planet were Altians, and they literally fell. They had never, you get transmissions from various channels, and I really ask you to use your discernment now more than you ever have, on information that sometimes totally misguided, misdirected, and therefore you become misinformed. The simplest is to know that you are. Before this group is out through this weekend, you hopefully will begin to gain, some of you already have, the recognition of the real principle of your connection with your source. This is not anybody's mistake. It was simply not possible on this planet. You cannot have two strands in your DNA, or at best I call it three, which would be your solar plexus, the third, and be connected with your God source in the way it was intended. So the true savior energy is among this group. And I don't know how many of you can remember how long this journey has been. Do any of you get a glimpse? It was very, very unfortunate for all of you during the Atlantean period, because this was a wonderful place, and your sciences and your technology, your abundance, your way of healing weren't dependent on anyone else. They were innate among those who inhabited that vast continent. And it's been dissipated. They dissipated mostly the tribe, the Altian, which is your white race. They have no hair, but they're white. They got so fascinated with the sexual aspect, which they don't experience around the corner, 62 million light years away. And they were so creative that they could, in fact, concentrate on the sexuality of human, Homo sapien. And they did. And it became so distorted among you that you would come in simply for the experience of something that you had not known. This was not the beginning of fallen man. You have to go back to the beginning of your imprisonment, which is 250,000 years ago. Many of you are taught that the earth, at best, particularly Homo sapien, is at best 2 million years old. This is simply not true. There have been many civilizations prior to the popular ones that you're aware of. And the reason we get to this is that finally there's a body of light on earth connected with its source. In the past, we've all been, well, there's several in here from other universes, but for the most part, they are the family of Melchizedek. The family of Melchizedek is somewhat limited because it's confined to this one little universe. Open yourself to Melchizedek is here, and he recognizes you as family, and a few of you are from other universes. None of you are from other sources, from other universes. You have had experiences. Your soul has. In that case, it would be higher self, wouldn't it? It's a very nice energy. All of these beings are present now. There's the greatest concentration ever in this or any other universe is for the planet Earth. Because without saving or salvaging or reuniting planet Earth with its rightful union with all it is, this one universe cannot proceed. It's that critical. Those who are not conscious of their reality as it relates to all it is, the fact that they're sitting in this room tells us, in fact we can see it, all of you are part of the goodly company. The goodly company has come to save the beloved planet. And it's more than that. It's the creator perspective. If you have a cancer, remove the cancer. And there's a very small number now, I say less than 1% of 1,728,000. It's a very small number, but much greater than the personality Brian first thought was here. When I was a boy, and I could see some other aging prophets out here, there was no one. I was studying in London at the time, and literally ended up talking to trees. There was nothing, there was nobody. And they're reasonably good company. But it's a crowded country, and sometimes people are up against trees for one reason or another. So we link. And it's not a link that hasn't been worked on for eons. And it's not to say that good is better than evil. It was all planned within your source. We have chosen to work with light. And the personification of all creation is love. The agencies of darkness are the ones, and you'll see this most noticeably in the next few years, you will have craft that is not of this earth, that are not of this earth, and they will confuse many. And again, because of their magic, as you perceive it, many will follow what again is not properly focused in light. And I want you to really integrate the concept that you don't lose your center. This is not poppycock, this business of the hieroglyphics and the crops in England. This is simply a message that you have visitors, not only here, but that are going to be recognizable. Some of them will not be in the form of the Adam Cadmon body that you find acceptable. Some of them, to most of you, will find quite grotesque. In fact, stunningly so. And you'll have part of your religious groupings who believe in the outer world and believe in the magic do not see that they live in the confinement of the three lower chakras, three lower astrals. They will not see this. So they will accept further illusion. But what's anchored on earth now is Source for the first time. It's been attempted many times before, but not with success. The vibration of planet Earth was not sufficient to anchor the creator energy on to this little planet. It is quite lovely. Many of us get weary of her because she's been so naughty, she's so strange. So insidiously manipulating us. And we, you and 1,728,000 others, are reuniting. And it can only happen electromagnetically. If a few of you, as your coding, your genetic coding, finds its true worth, establishes itself as a wholeness, as a receiver, it works very much like a radio. And in this coding, you will become the gods that you have always been. But you cannot ever do this with two strands of DNA. This was designed to keep you as prisoners. And no matter how good you feel about a bountiful life, no matter how good life has been for few of you, this is not the natural result. This is an imprisonment. With you, many like you, have said this will not happen anymore. Atlantis was a wonderful place, gentle ones, and many of you remember it. Technology is infinitely more advanced than your finite scientists would have us believe. They do not want to believe. They will say we have the greatest. We are the greatest. Our truths are absolute. You're going to find that that is simply not so. That there's an opening for consciousness on this planet now. That finite science, mechanical science, material science will dissipate for all practical purposes, because it does not include multi-dimensional man. And as I sit and talk to you, or you in the future, and you are able to receive the abundance of who you are through this coding, all of you will receive relatively the same information. The coding will ignite at different times. You see this? I'm no greater than anyone. The coding was different because the mission was different. The purpose was different. There was a need to come in and establish a link with the source. We all have this link. Divine equality is something that none of you truly understand, because you've been told forever that you're something less than you truly are. There are no exceptions. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, or yellow, or red. You have bought into this, and you exaggerate what you have been told is the better one. In this coding, it does not designate anything but a more abundant life. And in this more abundant reality, it becomes multi-dimensional. And that's what's going on now. In your shift in consciousness, you're beginning to feel. Open yourselves up, please, because you're being worked on. Nobody can go into overwhelm, gentle ones. All of you, if you feel a little crank of the back or the leg or the neck or something, let it go. I've had 7 years of that. I'm getting weary. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know now that what we are doing is happening and will have the profound effect the Source creates. You cannot have a universe as lovely as Melchizedek is and all other beings who have been our gods. You have the direct connection with the Creator, and there can be no intermediaries. Do not give your power to anyone. Give your power to the collective self, which is you. It doesn't work. It has never worked on this planet. The lovely energy Jesus is here. Betrayer. Everyone is here. But they have never said what you are led to believe, they said. Where would Christianity be without a crucifixion? Again, we needed to martyr. In this new age, martyrdom is not respected. It never was. An aside, that is the energy we refer to as Peter. He was not in agreement with these teachings. He loved the group. But we believe so readily and lose touch with our connections that in time we feel we're not doing a good enough job. So when the energy, small amount of energy galactically that we refer to as Peter, Simon rather, was crucified before Nero, Hitler. He laughed. But you know, he was dead long before that time. He had the sacrifice was one of bewilderment, of not why are they doing this, tell a story because it's something that I do, the personality does remember a little bit about. And I was never very fond of Paul. But he was beheaded the same day. The basis of Catholicism is the priesthood will not partake in sexual activity. So my wife Concordia was beheaded at the same time. Now we had these bodies in various parts of the world. Paul wasn't as popular or the heretic that Peter was, so Nero thought of that one. Mark took Peter's body, and this is all stories that one need not know, but the church is not built on Peter's body. Peter would insist on that. He's about 8 miles out of town on the Appian Way. And Mark took Paul and buried him with them, and Peter's wife, Concordia. None of these things were ever intended to be adored, were never intended. We misplayed the act, not knowing mankind's proclivity, fondness of martyring and adoring. There is going to be no martyring and no adoring with light. There never was. It was never intended. And it became a very dark and abusive power. It has not been popular with the Creator to look at an abscessed planet that is not focused on itself, on its God story. And we cannot have a planet with nearly 7 billion souls, if you include the lower astral, recycling time after time after time after time, whether for a beloved one, for a family member, not knowing how, generally, how to get off this cycle. This is not your natural home. You all know this. But it's a very exciting home for now. Very much is happening, even though we weary and sometimes we say, I wish I could go beyond. Somebody who lives with you as abundant lives in the other self. There is no abundant life in the other self, even remotely compared to that brief moment of absolute bliss. You have nothing on this planet that compares. Heaven and earth is nonsense. What heaven? We're talking about the fifth astral, which the religious give credence to, the religions give credence to. We can, within the silence, the cosmic heart, that connection. We've had amazing steps made in this last year, the action of the cosmic heart. The personal divine is absolute living proof that you can do this. Still be generous, still be loving, and not concern yourself about next week or next month. Just know. This is so simple to say, and I thought, well, why don't people get it? Why doesn't they were starting to work with light? I ask again to use your discernment, because there are so many travelogues out there about how this journey is made. And ultimately, when you get, it's very simple. It's extremely simple. It seems complex when you read some of the materials, particularly with Mahatma 1 and 2. But in the final analysis, it works on the premise all of creation. Remember, it's not static. It works on the premise of unconditional love And that is ongoing. That's all the Creator, the total I am, ever created. We do not know the God source, but it's because it is an eternal journey. We know the undifferentiated source. We know we can talk about the undifferentiated source. We can talk about 12 rays. What's beyond that, I have no idea. You can't know until you enter it, but we can know now the undifferentiated source, because that's where all existence comes for this one cosmic day, of which you, as the goodly company, will see. Many of you will live a very long life. That's maybe not good news. But I think if you feel better in light, and know the flexibility of getting in and out of the body, feeling much freer, it will not be transmigration, transfiguration. Multi-existence, fifth dimension, you do not need bilocation. That's not the reality. And there's not one among you who has not had this experience before of working multi-dimensionally. And yet it's been erased conveniently by those who would control you. Chaos serves the controller, and Lord knows it's been chaotic. A few of you I'm going to address now with this thymus, we might. The thymus, as you have read, is very hard as you age, very soft when you're malleable in a child. And when a child should be taught properly, the thymus is soft. The key, in my judgment, to your unification, or to your place of birth, you are all birthed from the monad, the senior monad. That is the birth. This is the end of the journey. And how wonderful it would be to really get it right this time. And we know, Brian sometimes gets astounded because he cannot see this titillating experience unfolding as quickly as others do. He gets annoyed with this sense of, serve it, when? Realistically, this last year could have been 20 years since we entered the cosmic heart and changed. Time is different. Everything is becoming different. The cellular expression of the body is becoming different. I see people going into light as I talk to them. So what is light? Light body is the body for ascension. You will not leave now unless your coding is different, or you have the soul, higher self over soul, prepare you differently for another assignment or whatever it is. And some of you will do that. Spiritual ascension is available. That's the ultimate. Not a case of why would he bother taking that body with him? What did it change it? Why isn't it a lighter one? And fill that up. Start again. How the hell are they going to get him to the Himalayas? That's going to be a big Merkabah. These spaceships are pussy. The super ones, I've seen one that's probably half the size of the moon, so they're going to be a little shocking when they do come over it, and actually are shown somewhat third-dimensionally. There could be a long shadow. The cows probably feel cold. Your timeless gentle ones, the heart connection. Only you of all species, not the angelic host, not the archangels, only you have free will, and only you. And this is very difficult to understand because the election is made on the various soul levels for experience. All is source, all experience negativity, as we view it, all experience profound light. But it's the turn of light, because this has gone on too long on this little planet, and it has a profound effect on this cosmic day. I cannot emphasize, I had no idea how dark it was here until we looked. You can't consciously think of this every day because you go insane. So we trust. What she did for this area and for the globe was huge. And this is the part that you cannot see yet, I sense. Maybe a few of you can. There's the input of a group this size has a profound effect in all creation, throughout creation, and it starts with the finest friend. The building of this cosmic room. Why not?